6 rounds have been completed of my state tournament, and now I'm going to discuss the last 3 rounds. And finally, the tournament is over. I'm actually uploading the video very late, so sorry. In this video we are going to discuss the round number 7, 8, 9, and in the 7th round, I was paired up against 1900 on the board number 4, and I actually lost that game. I was playing with the black pieces. And I cannot show you that game because first I lost that game, and second I simply lost my notation sheet, and I just don't remember the game. So we are going to start by looking at the 8th round. So I'm playing with the white pieces, and my opponent is having the rating of 1774. So I'm playing with the white pieces. I'm in a very bad mood, and I start with 1e3. Definitely I usually play 1d4, but like I simply lost against 1900, and my position went down from like simply 12th. So if I just want to come in top 4 to get selected for the national, I need to win 2 games in demand. So I was already in a bad mood. I didn't wanted a simple game like play d4, very positional game, because my opponent already knew that I play 1d4. So I simply decided to play 1e3 and surprise my opponent. And after e3, he started to think, and he respond with knight to f6. I played f6, already very suspicious. I was thinking if I try to play d4, he's going to simply play d5. And now what's the matter of playing e3? Like, it simply blocks my c1 bishop. So I wanted a different game. That is the reason I played f4. He played g6. We want to go for a safer opening, bishop g7. So I played knight f3, bishop g7, knight to c3, d5. I think playing knight c3 is a bit early in this position. Perhaps I can play d3, something like this, and perhaps something like b3, bb2 followed by knight to d2 is a much better idea. But knight c3 was a bit early, I suppose. d5, bishop e2, short castle, and here he played c5. Now after c5, I was thinking I want to create a position where I can simply put my bishop to b2. I can play d3 followed by something like e4. But actually, after he played c5, when I was wondering can I play d3, I thought that I can simply play d4, hit my knight and the pawn. Although this position is also fine by playing knight e4. But when I was thinking at this position and I thought d3, I thought that he's going to play d4, and I simply didn't like this position, because I just don't want this pawn on d4. It's very advanced. That is the reason I simply stopped it by playing d4. And now my position is actually completely bad. Like he simply captured, and I played knight, and he played knight to c6. And I was wondering, like, I can't develop my bishop to e3 because of simply knight to g4 hits the bishop. Like I do not want my knight on c3 because I want to play c3, protecting the pawn to d4, because he can simply play queen b6, hit my d4 pawn and b2 pawn at the same time. Like it already feels very bad for white. Like I want my knight to e2, but the bishop is on e2. I want my bishop to d3, but my bishop is on e2. I can't develop my bishop because the knight is coming. So I simply make a waiting move like a3. Perhaps my idea could be to play b4, trying to grab more space. And yeah, it is a move which does not actually make any sense. So a3. I just wanted to know that what is his actually plan is. Like if he tries to develop the queen, I can now play knight to a4, which looks a fine move. Like now I can play c3 followed by knight c5, something like that. But he played knight to e4, which looked very natural in this position, and I also suspected this move. And I actually wanted him to play this knight e4 move, because after playing knight e4, now I played bishop to e3, because as he have committed the knight on e4, now he cannot go knight g4, hitting my bishop on e3. So after playing bishop to e3, he decides to capture the knight, definitely bc3. Definitely in this position, he played queen a5. And this position is already bad for white because of the double c pawn, because of the weak a pawn. His c file is open, which makes my c pawn targets easily. And definitely black already looks very favorable in this position. So after queen f5, I decided to play bishop to d2. Because in this position, one of the most natural moves that comes to anybody's mind is to push the c4 pawn. So after c4, I thought that after dc4, bishop c4, he can play bishop f5, and if both the bishops are extremely opened up, he can simply play rook d8 and try to hit my d4 pawn. So I'm simply on a completely passive side. He can even play queen g3 moves like that, like hitting the bishop and the pawn. So I simply didn't like this position. I thought that it's better to close up the position, bishop to d2, bishop f5, and now I played bishop to d3. I was like fine in this position. If it trades the bishop, I'm having at least a much better pawn structure. Like compared to these double c pawns, I can have these double d pawns because there is no open file on the d file. So he actually captured the bishop, and a pawn takes, and he played queen to a6, which I simply didn't like this move. I thought that he can simply continue his game by playing rook a8, trying to put pressure on the c3 pawn. Like, I do not really want to push the pawn because of now queen a6, and if I take triple 3 pawns, extremely bad, knight to d4, completely winning for black. So basically, rook a8 is simply a good move. But he played queen a6, which like simply attacking d3 pawn, which is such a direct threat. I simply defended it by playing queen e2, developing my queen, protecting the pawn, and like the idea could be to simply bring the rook in the game. And third point is, like the queen on a6 looks completely bad, like out of the game. Like it's only hitting this a3 pawn, just that. After queen e2, he played e6, defending this pawn, like creating this forward pawn chain. And here I played knight to e5, cementing the knight, and I thought that this is one of the most natural moves. So I played it, knight e5. Like if it takes with the bishop, pawn takes, and dark squares are extremely weak. Knight's completely winning forward, I suppose. Like this, and the game is over. Even I can go for like this, still the game is over. Like it's such favorable position forward. And I was thinking, like, if it takes with the knight, I can capture with perhaps this pawn or even this pawn. Both looks fine move, and I can like perhaps f1 is much better because it opens up my f5. So I was like completely fine in this position. He played rook e8. I played rook f3. Like a very natural idea. I want to put my piece on the king side, trying to attack on the king. He played queen b6, and now his idea in this position is, you want to capture my d4 pawn with the knight, pawn takes, queen takes, hitting the king and getting the rook. When he played queen b6, I simply saw this in like just 2 seconds. It just like queen b6 direct threat is knight into d4. It's such a normal idea. So I simply played rook a1, rook f1. Like now the a3 pawn is not also not hanging. Like such a good position for white, I think. He played f6, which was simply out of the position. Perhaps a much better move in this position could have been to play queen to b2. Like a3 pawn is hanging in, but something like I can't move the bishop because the queen is hanging, and like it's actually hard for white to make any progress. Like if I try to play h4, I don't know, perhaps h5 can be a move, or even simply capturing the pawn, and if the pawn up, he can simply run his a pawn down the board and is simply winning. But he played f6. He wanted to remove my knight, and I was like, yeah, okay, let's capture the knight. Pawn takes. The reason, first of all, I captured this knight is I calculated to play knight to d7, queen c7 knight here, but I thought that perhaps in the future, if we can get e5, it's going to be dangerous for white. That is the reason I decided to capture the knight. Pawn takes, and they're definitely capturing the pawn looks the best move because it opens up the b file. As if we try to capture with the queen, you are hitting my c3 pawn, but c3 pawn is simply defended with the bishop, so it's good for white. That is the reason b6 was a good move. I played king h1 because his idea is to simply play e5. I cannot capture because the pawn is pinned. That is the reason I played king h1, making the king safer. Rook b8, rook e3, simply hitting the e6 pawn. And he was actually forced to give up one pawn. Because even if it defends this pawn with the king, I can simply play rook e1, triple attack. So good for white. So it was forced for black to push the c5, give up the pawn, and play queen c6. And I was like, yeah, d4. And I'm simply a pawn up now. Now this should be at least good for white because white is a pawn up. White is having a strong c pawn. black is having a weakness on e6. So I thought this practically should good. I thought even through like while playing the game, I thought that if I put this position in engine, it definitely favors fight. Touch g4, he played king f7. I don't know why he played king f7. Perhaps simply playing rook b2 was simply a good move. Like I can't move the bishop because the queen is hanging. So first I need to make a queen, move my queen, but I actually really want to put my queen to g4, but I can't because the bishop is hanging. So it's already very bad, a bit problematic for white. But he played king f7, which allowed me to simply play bishop e1. Now rook b2 is not possible. So he played rook b3. He wanted to capture my a3 pawn. I played bishop g3, captured, and I played h4. Not a good move by me. In this position, a very strong move was f5. But f5, I was thinking that he can simply capture the g pawn. And after queen checking here, it looks like nothing much is happening. But after bishop d6, the engine says like it's a very good position for white. Like white is close to winning. Like, I don't know perhaps how white is attacking. Perhaps it can attack like this. Something like perhaps doing something like this. I don't know. Something like that. But in the game, I didn't thought that f5 was working because of gf5. So I played h4. Like I thought that h4, my idea can be to play h5, but nothing is actually happening. If he simply plays f5, my attack is gone. Like it's equal, perhaps in a slight. Practically, I think black is doing a good job. He's having the a pawn, which is a passed pawn. Position is blocked. I'm having the bad bishop. Although his bishop is also bad, but it looks good for black, I think, practically. But he played h5, and this is what exactly what I wanted. After play h5, I simply played f1. Like now you cannot capture because of the h5 pawn is falling, and now the h pawn is extremely strong, extremely. He was captured the pawn, I captured the rook, and in this position after the match, he told me that after trading the queen, like after trading the rooks, he thought that I was going to trade the queens as well. But why will I trade the queens? Like why? He's having this strong pawn. Why would I trade the queen? I don't know. I simply moved the queen to b2, hitting the rook. You have to move the rook, and I played rook e1. This was actually my exact idea. Simply hitting the queen. The king is in the center. My b file is open. E file is open. I think this should be completely winning for white. In this position, I was thinking, what happens if he plays queen c8? But I was like, just play rook e1 and let's wait what he's going to play. He played queen to c6, but queen c8 was actually a much better move because it do not give a white queen the square of b8. Because after he played queen c6, I simply played queen b8, and I was like, this should be winning. Like this is exactly winning. Bishop d6, rook e7, and this should be good. What I was thinking that after queen c8, I can play bishop d6, bishop f8 takes. Perhaps he's surviving. I don't know why. I don't know how. Engine says that queen e2 and it's over. Like perhaps it would be over, but I was like, perhaps. But now c6 is a good move, and the game is over. So this was the idea. Queen c8 could have been a much better move, but he played queen c6, queen b8. Now, like he wanted to run with the king because he knew that he knew the checkmate is coming. So he played g5, played bishop d6, king f6, king g6. I played simply get with the rook in. The good thing is, even if you can give me a backline check, I'm having this square and the diagonal is fully controlled by my pieces. So nothing is happening, and the queen is simply blocked. So nothing is happening, and my king is extremely safe. He tried to play f4, trying to open up my position. I was like queen g8. I was thinking that he's going to resign. He played f3. In this position, I thought about 10 minutes, and I came with the wrong move. Queen f7 check. It was a 5-move mate. Queen into check takes. Rook e5 check takes. Queen check. Mate. Even if you go here, it's made like this. But the point is, I thought that rook e5, but I was calculating something like this. And I thought king g6, perhaps he's surviving, I don't know how. But I think perhaps he can, perhaps he cannot. Like, perhaps if I do not get a checkmate, what happens? So, That was the reason I came up with this queen f7 check, and in this position, I didn't knew what to play if he plays king f4, but I was ready with the move if he plays king g4. I think perhaps he cannot play king f4 because he will already get scared of this diagonal discover attacks. So in the game, he played simply king g4, queen check, and he decides to resign the game because it's over. You can push, it's mate. Even if you do not push, if you play something like this, it's still a mate. So basically, the game is over. Even if you play king here, I can play this, and this is still over. Like nothing is happening. He has to give up the queen. Yeah. So this was the 8th game, and I actually went on demand with the white pieces. So after completing this game, I think I was yeah. Now from the 12th position, I ranked up to the 7th position. Now I'm going to fight in the last round in the 4th board. So let's check it out. In the 9th round, I was facing 1921 a rating player in the board number 4, and I'm playing with the black pieces. He's already having the upper hand because of the white pieces, and it was the morning round, the final round, and he starts out the game with one knight f3. Actually, what I prepared at home was that I thought that he was going to play c4 or e4, but he surprised me by playing knight f3. I played knight f6. The reason I played knight f6 is because knight f6 generally comes in every variation. So he played g3. I played d5, bishop g2. And I was thinking, should I go c5, play knight c6? Perhaps you can go for Catalan, something like that. I decided to play bishop f5. You can call it the reverse London, playing with the black pieces, something like that. After playing bishop f5, he decides to castle. I played e6. I was like completely solid. Like my idea was simple: to develop my pieces. c4, c6. Remember, guys, I need to win this game if I need to qualify for the nationals. c6, queen b3, queen b6. Next, all theory. Queen b6 is actually a completely natural move. I do not want to play queen c7 because of, I don't know, perhaps I can push. I take it with the bishop f4. I didn't like this position. Queen b6 is simply the best. He captured the pawn, and I decided to trade the queens. The reason I traded the queens in this position is because now he's having the double pawn. And if I try to trade the queens, like for example, he plays something like this, and if I try to trade the queens like this, this makes the position like the a file is opened up. He's having the c pawn on the board. So basically, white is completely fine in this position. But he captured the pawn, and I captured the queen. And in this position, I captured the pawn, and he played d3 in this position. I think at the place of capturing the pawn, a much better move would be to capture the bishop. Although the engine says that after dc6, yeah, I need to capture this. And black has a pawn down, but like white is actually not having this key knight on b1, and the b pawns are doubled up, so I think they should be fine. But what I played in the game was also extremely fine. I played into d5, he played d3. If he just gave me one more move, I'm simply going to capture this knight, because the knight on b1 is going to come on c3 followed by on a4, and just going to dominate the dark squares. You're actually going to see that in the future. He played d3, and I played knight to d7. He played bishop to d2, and I played bishop to c5, because I thought that he's going to play b4, stopping my bishop c5. And I do not want to develop my bishop to d6, because I thought that this, I didn't like that stuff. I played bishop c5, provoking b4, bishop to b6, bishop to c3. I was completely fine with the move b5, because if we simply play with b5, I can simply castle. If he takes, I take. It's a fine position for black. White is having the weakness, black is having the weakness. It's fine. He played bishop c3, I played short castle, knight to d4, and in this position I was thinking, should I go back with the bishop? But in this position I thought that perhaps he can play h4, trying to play f5, and I simply didn't like this position. So I thought that a much better move would be to give up the bishop. Bishop takes and now playing a6 as the a7 pawn is hanging. a6, knight to d2. And in this position, I simply got to know that his idea is simply he simply want to put the knight to b3 followed by a5, putting pressure on this pawn, and it's already getting a bit bad position for black. Knight to d2, I played rook e8 trying to hit this pawn. He can't push the pawn because the pawn is hanging. He played rook to e1, I played rook e7, f3. f3, yeah, I was expecting this move in this position. f3 is a fine move. And the idea is actually very interesting. You want to put the king to f2, guard this pawn, because my idea in this position is to play rook e8 trying to do a double attack. As he cannot push the pawn because this pawn is hanging, you want to defend the pawn like this, which is a simply phenomenal idea. f3, I played rook e8 still, I played king f2, and I played knight e5. In this position, my idea is to capture the pawn like this. I cannot capture the pawn with the bishop in this position, but first I need to put my f knight to the d7, and then I need to capture. For example, if you make a random move, I can capture. Like, this is the wrong move because of bishop into e5. That is the reason I need to first play this, and like now let's make a waiting move like this. Now I can capture. Because if he takes, I take. If he takes, I take, and I give a check and I get the rook. That's the whole idea. But he played h3 first, okay? I played h5 because his idea simply wanted to play g4. I played h5, perhaps I thought that my idea could be to play h4 in the future if he tries to play f4, trying to hit my knight. He played f4 actually, and I was thinking, should I put the knight to d7 or should I put the knight to g6? I decided to play knight to g6. The reason I didn't play knight to d7 was like, what's the idea of black? Black is actually having completely no idea. Like, idealess guy. I can't play h4 because of g4. Black is not having any plan. Black just need to make waiting moves, and that's all. And I just, like, you can't win in a position like this. You need to do something. So I played knight g6, and now my idea could be to play h4 in the future, as if it tries to push, the f4 pawn is hanging. In the future, I played knight g6, he played bishop c spy, and I played rook c7. In this position, actually, I was ready to take a draw because black is actually not having any move. If he plays this, I was extremely fine with the draw. Because white is the one who is actually having a serious play. But he played de4, which was definitely, I was suspecting this move, that he's going to play this move because it's a very tempting move. I captured, I played rook to d7. After playing rook to d7, he played rook to e2, which was simply blunder. In this position, the best move was rook d1, and this is what was this is exactly what I was calculating and I was afraid of. Like, after rook d1, I thought that, what can I actually do? Like, for example, if I capture this pawn, I capture, and now comes a phenomenal move f5, and this was exactly what I calculated back when I played the move d4. Like, after rook c7, when he played d4, I calculated all this, like rook d1, take, f5, and the reason f5 is simply a phenomenal move is, first of all, I cannot capture because the rook is hanging. Second, on the next move, like, for example, if I make a random move, like, let's take knight f8. After knight f8, I can capture, because, like, if I try to capture this, he's having rook d1, take, and like, this is winning. And for example, if I put the knight to h8 even also, still knight d4, rook d1, and now comes knight f6. Phenomenal move, and the game is over. The game should be over. Perhaps rook into d1, and yeah, this is simply crushing position. Black was actually having no play in this position, so I was completely losing. So this was the exact variation I was afraid of. But you need to actually find f5. Like, for example, after rook d1, takes, take. And if you like make a waiting move, I can play f5, and black is now winning. Black is fine. Not winning, but at least having a better position. He played rook e2. Now I came with. I actually simply missed this move. I thought that I simply missed this move and it's completely losing for me because I can't move back the bishop because this is happening and this is completely winning for white. But now came the fantastic move in the position. Bishop into h3, sacking the bishop. You have to capture the bishop. He's having no choice. I'm a pawn up. You have to capture the bishop. Now comes another sack. Rook into d2, capturing the knight, giving up the rook. And the interesting part is, rook into d2, knight check. If you go back with the king, knight takes and it's fine. Like I'm having both the knights. I'm having 6 pawns. He's having 4 pawns. So I'm 2 pawn up. I'm completely winning. If it comes like to e1, which is the best move, basically if I take the rook, he can going to do this, and knight's winning for white because he's having the extra piece. But in this position, I've calculated knight into c5, hitting the king. And now, like, if you move the king, it's losing because of this. I hit both the rooks. You have to play rook e2. It's a move. It's all the forcing variation. Knight check, takes, king takes, knight takes, pawn takes, knight takes, king come takes. And we have this position. 2 pawns, 6 pawns, rook, knight. And this position is slightly better for like white need to play king g3 here, and this position is better for black obviously, but like good for black at least. But he played e5, which was a terrible blunder. Now I came up with the move knight check, king come. I straight the rook. I played rook d8. I think it's a practically it's a fantastic move because, for example, if I capture this pawn, this, I need to push this pawn, and now rook d1. And I think white is actually generating a heavy counterplay, and I think this can be very dangerous for black. So I first played rook d8. Like I can actually catch the bishop anytime I want because I'm already a pawn up. He's having the 5 pawns. I'm having 6 pawns. So it should be winning. So he played bishop e3 because if it goes like this, I can simply give a check and it's winning because I win the bishop. That's it. So bishop e3, I capture the pawn now. I played h4. He played e6. Now he's on low on time. What, like having 30 minutes, he's having 10 minutes. He played e6. He wanted to open up the position because in open position the bishops are extremely powerful. But now I came up with the move f5, blocking up the position, and he's having nothing now. He's having nothing. Like pawn is protected by the knight. If he even tries to go for capturing this knight, I can play knight e7. Now the knight is simply defended by the pawn. The pawn is defended by the knight, and it's simply winning. He played rook a3. I played knight e7 now. Bishop came, king f8. Like if it takes check, it's completely winning. I'm a pawn. This pawn is falling apart. It's winning. The bishop is extremely bad. He kept the piece on the board. I was like, let's play g7. Rook goes, rook check, knight came. Like king e8 was simply a waste move. Knight d5 was simply fine. I played king e8, just waiting move. Slowly and slowly I made progress. He gave up the pawn because he wanted this a5, but nothing was happening. Nothing was happening. I came up with the knights. I wanted a pure win. I forced the bishop trade, and now I thought this is winning. I captured this pawn as well. Like I was like, yeah, knight's winning. In this position, he decides to give up the bishop because this is already falling apart. Like this. Oh, he thought that he can make a stalemate kind of trick. He gave a check. I simply blocked it. And after playing rook f3 on the move number 58, he decides to resign the game, and I won. I won the 9th round. I came 4th, and I got selected for the nationals. And phenomenal play by me. I scored 7 points out of 9. I think it's a good result. So the nationals are from 17th of November. So I'm going to we are going to discuss the national games as well. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So guys, if you like this video, then make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you're new to our channel, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. And I'm going to see you soon. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching OneShot Chess.